We're chatting with a phenomenal female founder who built an app that empowers parents to easily invest and save for their kids' future. And hello, she raised millions in VC funds for her FinTech startup. How did she do that? Let's find out. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Ande, Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses of my own, can I just say bravo to you founders for getting up every day and bringing your vision and missions to reality and to the customers who love you and who you love serving. I'm truly grateful that you carved out time to tune into the Startup Life show, and grab the gems from our delicious conversation today, because what happens is that you will up your founder game. And as you do better, that's right, your startup is going to do better. A big yoo-hoo and mwahs to the live viewers and you wonderful replay viewers and my podcast listeners. Thank you so much for carving out that time to up your founder game. I'm so happy that you're here. Be sure to leave comments in the threads, whether you're joining us live or via replay. We're here to help you and serve you on your startup journey. As I'm often saying, may we maximize the joy and minimize the heartache from your startup journey. And for those of you who are tuning in on the podcast, be sure to subscribe, click the like buttons, do all the things. You know, it's on Apple and Spotify, as you know. I'm so grateful you tuned in. And for those watching a video or tuning in from YouTube, be sure to click that like button and subscribe if you're on the YouTube channel, because it helps us reach more folks. And to receive an alert whenever I post a new show with a deep dive on the guests, their bio, their background, what they're doing in the world, what they're launching and building, please join the Startup Life Live meetup group. Links are in the show notes, so you can scan that QR code right there. A quick announcement here for a wonderful event that's happening. It's the WOCON Summit. It's an invitation-only convening for investors, allies, and policymakers who want to deepen their understanding of the problems with the system that continues to keep women of color entrepreneurs locked out. The summit will share stories about the unique entrepreneurial journey of women of color, facilitate honest conversations about allyship, and propose solutions that can help lead to systemic change. It's happening starting late today, over the next few days. Today's March 7th. Just get on the email list for whenever WOCON has any events, but the summit is going to be particularly informative. I went last year, and I've had several of the guests on the show, including the founder, Jill Johnson. Phenomenal group. If you are raising funds for your startup, be sure to hop on over to Scroobius. It's a human-first fundraising experience, scroobius.com. And when you do sign up for their very affordable, and founders, when I say affordable, I'm talking like $20 a month. Get founder support, get help creating the best pitch deck in the right order for your business so you can find those aligned investors. Hop on Scroobius and use Andy15 to receive 15% off. And then for those of you who are female founders in the US, if you need help with your WeBank application, I'm your gal. I've helped dozens of female founders fill out that pesky WeBank application. Just shoot me an email, Ande@andelyons.com, and find out how I can help you. It's not an easy application to do. All right, that's it for now. Let's get to the program and our conversation with the one and only Ksenia Yudina. This is going to be an incredible conversation. Look at this platform that she has built right now. So after coming to the US from Russia at 18, Ksenia took on $180,000 in debt to pay for college. And she quickly realized that many other graduates were strapped with this level of debt and saw a need for a more accessible savings vehicle than the traditional 529 that requires confusing paperwork and fees. And Ksenia spent over a decade working in financial services, most recently at Capital Group, where she realized that the industry had failed to recognize that parents' number one priority is saving for the children. So as many female founders do, she said, I'm going to solve that problem. And she created a simple, affordable financial solution accessible to all families. And in 2020, that's right, she launched UNest. This is what you're looking at right now. And raising $38 million from well-known VCs to build this beautiful FinTech platform. Oh my gosh, we're going to learn so much from her. Let's bring her on the show. Welcome, Ksenia.
Hi, Ande. So great to be here.
I am so happy to have you. I had the best time reading about your background, because it's one thing to say, hey, we got to solve this problem. But you were like, I am going to be the one to solve this problem. And I'm so curious as to how it all started. But first of all, let everybody know where you are geographically in the world.
I'm based in LA. It's sunny, it's nice weather. I love it over here, but we did have some snow, a week ago.
I saw, and you had a lot of rain, and those of us in the Northeast were like, whatever, because we were doing the usual. And look who stopped by and says hello, Nancy J. Gray. She said she's going to be feeling the joy when Startup Live starts. This is one of my dearest friends from way back. And Ruth, our wonderful community manager, always happy to see you in the comment threads and joining us for this delicious conversation. So please share with everybody, Ksenia, how this process, and I said earlier, it's one thing to go, yeah, I think I'm going to solve this problem, but to actually step into a role of entrepreneurship when you've been an employee your entire career. Please talk about this process. Did you have role models growing up? Had you always wanted to be a business owner, an entrepreneur? Tell everybody your origin launch story.
Well, I definitely had a role model growing up in entrepreneurship, and it was Steve Jobs. I think he is a true innovator and visionary, and he left a great legacy behind, and we use the products that he built every day. But I actually never wanted to be an entrepreneur growing up. And even like when I went to the business school, I wasn't taking any entrepreneurship classes. I really wanted to build successful career in finance and investment management. Just like wanted to have like a very boring traditional finance career. I still trying to understand how I got on this side. But
I love that so much. I just really wanted to be just fine in my lane right here.
But so what happened next, I joined this amazing company called Capital Group right after MBA. And I got into private wealth, where I worked with a lot of like high net worth individuals, a lot of families. And I started noticing a lot of things. First, all of our clients were really interested in saving for their kids or grandkids. It was top priority for them.
Yeah.
We, as financial advisors, did not like those type of accounts, right? Like, and by the way, Capital Group is the #1 provider of 529s and UTMAs and all custodial accounts in the nation.
I see. Okay.
We hated those accounts because that involved a lot of paperwork. They were very small. They were very tedious for clients, for us, required a lot of education. And in the meantime, I started getting a lot of my friends who also graduate from top schools with student loans, reaching out to me saying, hey, we just had a kid. How can we start saving, investing for the future? And when I introduced this, financial application from Capital Group, I got a lot of pushback, not from one person, but from like 30. And I started like digging around and asking questions. I'm like,
what was the pushback that you got?
No one wanted to deal with applications, paperwork, FedExing, faxing. For some reason, for like millennial parents, that wasn't an attractive way to set up the account. So I was like, okay, what's wrong? How do you like set up like how do you manage your financial life? I thought like we kind of like all have financial advisors, and they're like, no, we actually do everything on mobile.
Right.
And I realized, yes, like we trade on Robinhood and send money on Venmo, and we use Mint, and we use like all like mobile apps to manage financial
all from
life.
my phone, folks. Okay.
Right. And then I was, and they were like basically saying, hey, go find a better way to do this for us. Like, we're not going to deal with financial applications. And the story, like the issue was so like personal to me, because I graduated with 180,000 student loans. My best friend got her dentist degree at USC with $500,000 in student loans.
Easily.
Yeah,
Easily.
and I was like, well, we as parents, like, we're super motivated to do the right thing for our kids, especially this millennial generation, right?
Right.
We don't want them to drown in student loans and,
Well, and
repay it for the rest of their lives.
right, and exactly, and you still want them to be able to get an education that is meaningful to them, and also, there's other reasons why you might want to be helping, create a nest egg to get your kids started in life.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you about that later. But that was my original kind of inspiration. I'm like, okay, parents really want it. It's a big pain point for them, and 70% of people in the nation don't know about the right way to get started. About
Right.
529s or UTMAs. Meanwhile, we're all drowning in 1.8 trillion student debt, and no one was doing that. Right. So I
Right.
looked around. The platform like this did not exist. No one was focusing on families, on parents, on children, and that was very important to me. I was thinking that probably I am the right person to solve it. I'm like, why would I wait for someone else to build it if I have the right education, the right background? I know 529s and UTMAs inside out. I spent 4 years at Capital Group. I spent 12 years in finance. I have my CFA. Uh,
You
so I
have
was
what we call in the industry, the startup ecosystem, the double chef's kiss, mwah, mwah, for founder market fit.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know about that expression, but that sounds right. And another thing, I was okay. I didn't have a technical background, so it obviously was a risk. But I realized very clearly that if I don't try, I will regret all my life. Right?
See,
If I don't take the shot, that will be the biggest regret of my life.
can I just take a moment here, everybody? I'm having an Andelicious moment. I'll tell you why. Founders, those of you sitting on the fence right now, are you taking that in? You do not want to get to the end of your life and have any regrets, okay? And you will always win when you start a business no matter what happens, even if you don't have the ideal founder market fit that Xenia has right here. So, Xenia. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. So, tell us more about how, because you were getting some great uh, feedback, right? You were already pulling in not only from your own personal experience,
Mhm.
but you were getting user feedback before you even launched the idea, an MVP from folks. How did you come up with the name? How did you start putting the parts and pieces together?
Yeah, so the name was I was just thinking, like, what is it that would signal this saving for kids' future type of experience? And
Right.
nest came to mind, right? Like, it's saving, it's nesting, and also like when older kids leave like home,
Right.
we call parents like empty nesters, right? So nest was the right word for me, and you was just like, I wanted to build something for you, for parents, for families. It was all about them.
I
So
have to, I have to say, Xenia, I am like shocked that that name was available. It was, I mean, you went to patent it and you had no problem?
we went to patent,
Trademark?
we trademark, yet no problem.
I love that. I mean, see, and folks, this is so many of these considerations come into first time founders. Oh, I'll never be able to get that name. It won't be available. So you nailed that part down. How did you start? And of course, you had all the background in finance. How did you find your not a co-founder, someone to help you with the technology? Where did you go? How did that happen?
Network. I just started going to all the technical, like, tech events in town, in LA, meeting people, telling them about my story, saying like, look, I'm looking for technical co-founder or advisor, someone to help me out. And that's how I met Steve Buchanan. He became our CTO after the seed
Yay.
round. But first, yeah,
A-
he got
And
started with
local?
us, local.
Ah,
He actually spends, like, half of his time in Colorado and half of his time in LA. So that was perfect. And he was working at like in traditional finance, was looking to join a startup with a mission. He was like a very mission oriented guy, and we met. It was perfect match. And he started as advisor because it's very hard when you bootstrapping your startup to pay salaries, right? So you share a little bit of equity and you have people join you as advisors. And he helped me look at tech teams and find the right team to execute on this project, on the MVP, to build it. And yeah, that's how we got started.
Again, another outstanding piece of advice, folks. You've got someone who is in a track and they're very good at it and they're very successful, but they could be bored. They could be looking for what Ksenia was just talking about. They were looking for the opportunity to get in early, maybe start as an advisor. So it's up to you, founders, to share your vision, find those folks, because money is not the only currency out there for bringing folks on board with your startup. So thank you so much, Ksenia, for sharing that piece of advice right there. So you nailed the CTO. So now as an advisor, he can help you with the product dev, which is so important. And you're starting to form the company. How'd you handle the really tough restrictions that come with launching a fintech, when investment is involved, when people's money is involved? It just would stop so many other people from even proceeding. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had to register as RIA. And again, like I was lucky, I already had a CFA. So I kind of bypassed, I was on fast track to receive the RIA license.
What does RIA, what does that stand for?
Registered investment advisor.
Great.
And, we were regulated by SEC, like day one. We actually had to go through audits pretty early on.
And is it expensive?
To become an RIA actually is not very expensive, but later, after Series A, we also became a broker dealer, and that thing is very expensive. And you're regulated by FINRA, and it takes 10 months, and you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get licensed. Right. But it also creates great barriers to entry, and it's all worth it. But
absolutely,
you got to be at the right stage, right, to get the broker dealer.
I love that. And so now you're starting to come up with the idea. Now, were you doing this as a side hustle, or were you saying, I'm going to put a bookmark in with Capital Group, see you bye, I'm going to go ahead and start this? How did you manage that segue?
I was all in. I don't believe in side hustles. You're going to be a founder, you have to quit your full-time job and, devote 100% of your time. I worked on the weekends, evenings, a lot of sacrifice in the first 18 months. I told my husband I'm probably going to, have no pay for the next year, maybe 2 years, who knows? And he was on board. And yeah, it was bootstrapping experience for the first 18 months.
And I am so happy that you had that conversation with your loved one, folks. I can put the link in the show notes. I have a great post up on Medium called "When Your Loved One Isn't an Entrepreneur," because sometimes you have to get that buy-in, right, from the folks who are in your life, and letting them know, as you did, I'm not going to be earning any income. And in fact, I'm going to probably be drawing down on savings and bootstrapping this organization. How did you prove your MVP? How did you pull together that minimum viable product that you could then share with people and start proving your value prop?
So it took us about 8 months to build it. We, Steve and I, were working with this tech team, day in, day out, just building it. And then, financing wise, it was me just bootstrapping and investing my own capital for the MVP. And then in 8 months, the way we kind of tested the beta test, I actually reached out to my alumni group, at UCLA Anderson. I reached out to those young parents that were bombarding me with questions when I was at Capital Group. And I said, now I need your help to test it. You asked me to find a better way. Come, jump on the platform and give me this early feedback.
Oh my gosh. I love that, Substance Fierce, because this is what informs us. And so what did this wonderful beta group come back with? What did you learn from them that made the platform even better?
So safety and security is definitely parents' number one priority when it comes to fintech. What we realized very quickly, there was a huge drop off on the very first screen. And that was the screen when we asked for child social security number. Apparently, everyone remembers their own social security number, but parents do not remember their kid's social security number. So that was a big learning experience. We had to revise the onboarding, move it to the very end. And then we spent a lot of time just thinking how we can help parents find it somewhere, because it's custodial account. You got to have it. But it's
absolutely not everybody has it in the file folder like I do from the old filing days. I'm afraid I'm one of those people. And it's true. I couldn't begin to tell you either of my kids. social security number, even though it's included sometimes on the tax returns and places like that. And I love that you found that this was a question that was not going to have a good result for the whole navigation journey, the onboarding journey for your folks. So where did you land with that eventually?
Yeah, we moved it to the very last step of onboarding process first, and then we found a solution for parents to skip it. And then, like, we just like actually recently launched the new feature for expecting parents to start the account even before they have the child or social security number. So it was a work in progress, but that was like the first thing that we learned. And the second thing, like, hey, I need to link my bank. Can I really trust this app? Is it safe? Is it secure? Like, what are they going to do with my bank information? So with that, like, it also takes a lot of time, right? Social proof. You have to get like a lot of ratings and reviews in the App Store and Google Play for people to feel like really comfortable. They have to learn about your product from the trusted sources to feel comfortable. So, but that was like the initial observation.
Right. Oh, I love that feedback. And folks, it's worth taking time, right, Ksenia, to get that feedback, go in and get some of I mean, look how it just helped you right away. Onboarding folks, you realize the journey needed to be different than what you were having it. So what customer segment, I know you talk a lot about millennials, but that's a big, broad group. And a lot of times when we first launch an app, we need to be a little more targeted with who we go after first to prove the value prop, to get the trust, to get the reviews on the App Store. So people go, okay, this is trustworthy and this has been their experience. Where did you focus your customer acquisition strategy first?
Yeah, so first we realized that most of the parents, that download the app and like really love it, have very young kids, like 0 to 5, right? So that was like one kind of segmentation aspect. Let's not bother with like teenagers and older kids. Let's really double down on parents of very young kids. Second, for the early adopters of any fintech product, actually gender also comes into consideration, right? So guys, dads, they were more likely to download the app and more kind of risk takers, and they were more concerned about safety and security than moms initially. Right now, we have a very healthy gender split, 50-50, but the early adopters were men.
That's fascinating. It makes me think of that meme where, the guy is throwing the kid up in the air. The dad throws the kid up and it looks like they went 2 miles up into the air. And the mom is like, tiny, but that sounds about right. And, men are more comfortable with the investment process, the trying things out. It's just money, they're a little more risk takers around money. But I think onboarding the women, the moms, probably made you feel like, okay, now we got it through the mom test.
Yes, now we got it. Because like one of my concerns was that back then, like all fintech products were tailored, investing products were tailored towards men. Like 90% of like any fintech app you look at, they failed to appeal to women. So I think it's a big accomplishment that we nailed this problem.
Yes. Now I didn't know that. Ksenia, say that one more time. That stat, I'm taking it in about the men.
So most of fintech investment products, like 80, 90% of the user base were men.
Yeah. And so everything is looking and feeling for men.
For men, yeah.
Yeah.
We also like based on our like research and first marketing test, we realized that men react better to the word invest, while women like the word save.
See, now this is what I'm talking about, folks. It's finding out how your customers want you to communicate to them. You can be locked in and invest, and you could be missing a whole group of people because you're using the wrong word. How did you find that out?
Tests like on Facebook user group, we just talk to focus groups of moms, groups of men, of dads, and a lot of times women, like, they shy away from investing. They're like, I don't know about it. I let my husband to deal with it. Like, it's scary. But if you say saving, and it's like building your nest for the kid, it's all about saving, then it kind of clicks. Okay, it's safe.
I love that. And so, how did you reach them? And folks, you know what I'm going through here. Here's the customer acquisition after they've proved their value prop. What are they learning from that? How is that informing them? And how you reach your customers is your distribution channel. If you're looking at the business map, right? How were you finding it easier to reach people?
Yeah, we started with, friends and family, our networks, just to build that initial traction and social proof. Then we tapped into the paid channels. For direct to consumer, it's important to work with Meta and Google, those like large platforms. They have very, very powerful advertising, great for like A/B tests, just like finding out like specific message that resonates. Now the best performing channels are actually affiliates, so like large blogs, for
Oh,
example,
sure.
that want to promote us, influencers.
Yep.
Powerful channel, so good. And it was also interesting to see like initial resistance from influencers, because most of them are moms, new fintech product, like, oh my god. And right now, like, they fighting to promote it and advertise it. So it was an interesting like evolution from like, oh my gosh, like, from this early adoption,
Right.
right, into
Like that.
like
This
now
is kind of
now
sketchy to, oh my gosh, this is the best thing
yeah,
ever.
it makes sense. All my friends using it, right? And we just signed a big partnership actually with iHeart Studio, like the largest
Yeah.
radio station in the nation. So we on air, on podcasts and broadcast, and yeah.
This is so wonderful. Those kind of partnerships, folks, help leverage and help accelerate your growth. And that's so important to build those relationships, but also the influencers and the experts, the authorities, and especially in the fintech world. You can get the authorities in that people look to for guidance and advice writing about your fintech platform. And then the influencers, it's huge for anybody going direct
Mhm.
to consumer, right?
Absolutely.
Ksenia, oh my gosh, this is just wonderful news. And it's great information for anyone launching any kind of app, but especially in the fintech world. And did you have any constraints for how you advertise, given it's a fintech product?
We have some guidance, of
Yeah,
course, like, some things that we cannot use or say, or testimonials that we cannot say, or like promise, investment returns. So, but like, yeah, we have like very strict rule of, I mean, like set of rules around it.
right. And so now that you've grown in such a short period of time, because you actually fully launched when?
2020 on both Android and iOS.
And really, people were at home. I think that to me,
Mm,
that would have been a perfect time to launch, because what else were they going to be doing?
absolutely. And that's when like growth took off.
Right.
Pandemic was amazing, amazing time to launch. But that's also like when we learned a lot about the product. We actually went through the pretty major pivot at
Right.
that time.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Can we talk just take a second on customer acquisition again, the cost, because folks who tune in, how much I love it when we can at least brush up against the LTV CAC ratio, which you can find a complete description on how to calculate this ratio and why on my YouTube channel under the Andelicious Advice playlist. But this is so important because your acquisition cost, the LTV CAC ratio today is
mhm.
going to be perhaps a lot less than when you first launched. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that just a little bit for folks?
Well, it actually kind of depends. Like
Okay.
first, it was higher because, like, CAC was pretty high, like to
Yeah.
acquire the new customers. Then it dropped, like when we started scaling. Then it was high again in 2021 because of the iOS 14 issues, and the cost to advertise was insanely high for all
Right.
fintechs and a lot of direct to consumer startups. And right now it's low again. So we kind of like got
Excellent. But so you've
got it
had
back
some
on track.
fluctuation.
Yeah. So
And
it's not dependent just on the product. You can be like the most differentiated product with amazing traction. It also depends on the industry, right? And how
right.
much funding the direct to consumer startups received from VCs, and who is spending what, and how you compete for eyeballs.
Oh my gosh. And so many of the founders who tune into the show, Ksenia, are first time founders. And so they're sitting there at home going, oh my God, I am the worst founder ever. They've got the big L on their forehead because they think they're the only one who's ever made any of the mistakes they're making, instead of realizing they're right there in the pool with all the other founders making the same mistakes, seasoned or otherwise. What have been some of the mistakes that you've learned the most from on your journey so far?
Yeah, I think like the most interesting one, I can't even call it a mistake, but learning experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when we launched the MVP version of the product, it was the 529 tool, because I was a big fan of 529s coming from Capital Group. Like, that was the right tool for our clients there. It was very hard to disrupt that industry. They actually didn't want anything digital. They wanted to work through paperwork. And when we launched the new product, it was very slick on the UX UI, on the front end, super simple, easy, intuitive to use. On the back end, we were sending faxes, like paper, to yeah. So that's what founder needs to go through, right? Like, in order to disrupt and launch something, sometimes you have to, deal
Speak the
with,
language.
yeah, you just have to like deal with that industry, and like with
Right.
their rules. And yeah, so we were just like faxing up, paper or applications on the back end.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we probably broke a fax or two, so they didn't want to build APIs. We like talked to a bunch of a bunch of large financial institutions, and they were just like resistant building any APIs or doing like anything electronically. And for the most part, the industry is like this, like to this day, like nothing changed. It's been like 20-25 years, like nothing changed. So but the moment of like aha happened like during pandemic, when we started growing and we started getting a lot of like feedback from the customers, not from people who I selected to be the first like beta users or like my
A
friends and
complete.
family, strangers.
Yeah.
And those strangers informed us that, parents don't want to save just for education. They actually, especially during pandemic, when the future of education was so like uncertain and unknown, they said we want more flexibility. And maybe like my priority is not saving for college, it's saving for my child's first car. I still care about the future, but I just don't want to save for college. And parents rely on financial aids and scholarships, and there were like so many things that going through their minds, right? And at that moment we were like, well, this is a blessing. We actually can transition to a different account that's not so complicated. Oh, and another thing that was super confusing to parents was states. Like, which state do you use? If I live in California, can I invest in New York? Can my child go to college in Illinois, and so on, right? Super confusing.
Yeah.
So we like talked to the board, talked internally in the team, decided that we're going to pivot into different type of account that's going to be a better solution for our families, for our consumer segment. Parents of like all economic incomes, all backgrounds around the country. And that's when we transitioned to UTMA. It's also custodial account, also tax advantage.
UTMA? What is that?
Uniform trust for minor. It's
Yes,
also
right.
a custodial account, also tax advantaged. It's also investment account, but it's
Yes.
more flexible. You don't have to just spend it on college or educational expenses. You can
Right.
spend it on anything that benefits the child.
Excellent. Oh, I love this. I'm going to pull up the website, okay? Because I think that it's just so important that we take a quick look and see so you can get a feel for those of you tuning in on the video. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Can you see it okay there? Yes. Yay. And so you can scroll down, save for your kids, earn rewards. It takes a village. You're not in this alone, receiving money from family and friends, right?
Yep.
Yeah, from aunts, uncle, that extended family, family of choice, grandma, grandpa. Invest without the stress. So learn as you go and increase your investing power. This is just so wonderful. And then families love UNest, and very easy to get started. And of course, it's right to the App Store when you click on the Get Started. And it's just a terrific, easy website to use. Bravo. And of course, to create something like that is, you can only bootstrap so much and so far. And you have done a phenomenal a phenomenal job at raising funds. And so many female founders are up in arms right now because in January, everyone, or early February, they released how much women founders received from venture capital in 2022. And no, it did not go up from the measly 2 point whatever percent. It went down to 1.9%. So we are all curious. We, the collective female founder world, are curious as to how did you raise such significant capital from traditional VCs, well-known and well-heeled VCs? And what can you share with us that we can take and use on our own fundraising journey?
Oh,
I mean, lots of women have the great founder market fit, and they
Yeah.
come with, the right ingredients for
Yeah.
being that female founder. But something happened when you stepped in the room,
Mm.
and maybe it was introductions, maybe it was the
Yeah.
social capital that you were able to use to have people vouch for you. I'm thinking, just any hint that you can help other women think about when they go into the room and are pitching their business.
Absolutely. So the first round was definitely the most difficult seed round, right?
Yeah.
When you don't really have a product, you just like have like some MVP and there is no team, and everyone kind of needs to bet on you. So at that point, I had probably like 100 discussions with investors, both like VCs and angel investors, and so couple things. First, it's definitely a numbers game, right? So if you get your first few rejections, don't think anything's wrong with you or the product or the idea. You have to keep speaking. You have to find the right type of investors for your product. So for example, what worked for me is that most of our early investors were parents themselves. They downloaded the app and they started using it for their kids, and it immediately clicked. And then once you start like getting your first yeses, that's that kind of leads to the next investor and opens like the next door. People vouching for you, super important. Having like someone like another like man at the pitch meetings, super important. I like my strategy was actually to surround myself with a lot of advisors, experienced entrepreneurs, because what I realized, it's not just for female founders, for anyone raising the seed round is hard.
Yeah.
Because VCs want some proof, right? Like rule of thumb, if they had successful exits before, if they built something before, that means that they can execute, because investors are betting on your execution abilities. So I surrounded myself with few experienced advisors that built companies before, gave them equity in the company. Of
Yeah.
course, they have to believe that this equity is going to worth something. They have to believe in me and the idea, and then they help to open a lot of doors. And make introductions.
And how did you find them? And again, of course, you came from the finance world. So,
Yeah.
and you have a wonderful MBA from UCLA,
Yeah.
Anderson School. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, this comes with its own wonderful social capital right there to help you along the way. But how else did you do? Did you just, were you forthright? Who do you know? How can you help me? Can you make an introduction for me? How did that happen?
I have to give a lot of credit to my CMO, Peter Mansfield, because he was the guy who was super connected in the industry, in the LA community, and who connected me to the right people in FinTech. His experience includes Marqeta. He was actually the first person there. He had several successful exits. And when we met, he fell in love with the mission. He actually already was nearing his retirement age, but he has 3 kids and all of them had to go through college. And he's seen countless families struggling with student debt and getting their kids through college. So he loved the mission and he was like, I'm ready to help you and I'll introduce you to all the right people.
You're bringing up something I think is really important, Ksenia, which is when we go to attract our team, we have to think big, okay? You were bootstrapping. You had to get them excited about what you were building for them to come on board, bring their expertise on board, and join you for equity in the business. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And the belief that they'll see something on the other side. But I got to tell you, I think it's more intangible. this is a really fun ride when you
Yeah.
build a business and you take it and you scale it and you know you're changing lives and you're enhancing the world in this way. That is something you just can't monetize, folks. So I'm going to encourage founders who are tuning in. Yes, you want to get someone on board for whatever reasons, but if you're feeling like I don't have enough money to bring on somebody like that, or maybe my idea isn't big enough yet to be that, don't worry about that. The answer is always no unless you ask, and look around you and do the research. Read, Business Insider and Fast Company and Fortune, and find out who all these players are in the world, and then find out people who know them and get the introductions, and just be open to the fact that you could bring in some big, what I used to always call the big muckety mucks, to add value to your journey. And look how it has helped you. I'm really seeing, as I look at the big view, Ksenia, that this has been how you have accomplished your VC raise. What do you think?
No, that's for sure.
Is
Yeah.
having these, what I would call the heavy hitters on
Heavy
board.
hitters, yes, yeah, and the team, right? That's team is so important to VCs.
Yeah.
They want to see how you attract talent, who else believes in your mission, right? And can you bring those heavy hitters at such an early stage, right? It's like the quality of the founder they really deeply care about.
Right. And folks, that's why I don't want you to think small. Okay. I mean, someone who's got some background, or you think you're going to get someone right out of school to help you because you don't have to pay them a lot of money and they're excited to join you. No, no, no. I really want to see you focusing on getting those folks who have some deep experience, get them excited about what you're doing, and just be open to the possibility they'll want to join you.
I would argue that a lot of people that already been through successful exit, they want to help and they want to be involved with young companies, with like energetic founders, with a lot of ambition and drive. And just like one thing to be mindful about, like at early stage, some founders just like afraid to share equity in the company. They're like so protective. And it's like, no, I built it. I'm not going to share it with anyone. No, you have to share it with people who provide value, because like at early stage, it's worth nothing, right? But those right people, can help you build something meaningful.
That's right. Oh, I love this. So, and of course, you'd had a little bit of traction, which made it, people said, okay, I'm seeing where we're going here.
Yeah.
And then, and you had a solid CTO, which is so important. Now you're going after the Series A. How much did you raise in Series A?
So we always were raising like equity and venture debt.
Okay.
So like 6.5 was in equity and 2.5 was venture debt.
Yeah. And then, so when you brought that group on, because, folks, you can just hop on Crunchbase. If you ever want to know how somebody's doing and who's involved and who's getting funds and where from, Crunchbase has all that information. So you can go and see how Ksenia and her team on UNest did this, right? How they, who they were able to attract for their funding. When did you get the big chunk of change that took you to the next level to really scale?
That was Series A.
Okay.
And the lead investor was Antos. They're based here in LA, one of the like well-known funds. We also had strategic coming in. That was Northwestern Mutual. And again, like for FinTech, it's important, right? Because forming those partnerships early on.
Oh my gosh. I talk about folks, I just looked, were listening. I just looked my finger and did a check mark. I mean, seriously, that was wicked smart, as we would say here in Boston.
Yeah, so forming those partnerships with large financial institutions, especially for like FinTech, startup, extremely important. You helping each other out. They're struggling with innovation. You bring a lot of new ideas and vision, and they bring resources and people and funds to help you.
See, and that's key. Take that in right there, folks. What Ksenia said. It's so important that you understand that they need the innovation. They need you to be on board. Now, one thing that you had happen in the middle, and folks, there's so many things with our businesses that we think we can control, but then there's the weather, like Mother Nature, that could come in and just wipe you out. And then there's things like a war that totally you don't even have that on your, how do I mitigate the risks? What are the risks and how am I going to mitigate them with my business? Please share with folks, Ksenia, how you managed this on February 24th, 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah. So, just for the context, right? Like when we started the company, we really wanted to build a global team. So we had team members in Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Poland. And when the war happened, especially as entrepreneur who comes from Eastern Europe, it hit everyone. Like we were all in shock. But the first priority was getting our teammates out of the war zone, right? Out of zone that was invaded by Russia, out of Russia itself. Um, so it was like kind of a blitzkrieg exercise, like a week long, just like a lot of calls, booking airlines, flights were canceled. Some people were crossing by feet through Georgia. But what we did as a company, first of all resources were allocated to this project, just getting people out, ensuring their safety, and providing financial assistance. So right now, I'm proud to say everyone, like almost everyone, is safe. They based in Serbia and Turkey for the most part. We still have two developers, unfortunately, who got stuck in Ukraine, and it's like heartbreaking. We like listening, getting the news every single week, just making sure like they safe, at least not in the not under the attack.
Right. And you were still able to keep them employed.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, right there, that's, being able to continue to feed your family and keep, and keep the lights on and things like that is so important.
Yeah, we don't expect, the highest level of productivity, of course. If they do something, we just like grateful. But I think it's so important just like to support them through this for all of
Right.
us.
Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. And talk a little bit about how the Fortune 40 under 40 happened. That's a big deal on Fortune 40 under 40.
Yeah, they reached out actually to write a story about us around that time after
Mhm.
February 24th. They wanted kind of to hear about like my background and when I came and our team. And then they decided to feature me in this like amazing recognition.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations on that. That's huge. And folks, I'm always talking about being media prepared, right? It's so important as a founder, you need to keep continuing to step into your founder role. And I know you're working so hard, your eyes are down, focused on getting your business to sustainability and profitability, but you have to also step out into the world as a founder, as the CEO or CTO of your business, and let the media see you and brand you as a founder. And that transition is not always easy when you've come from being an employee and then all of a sudden you've got to be a founder, a CEO, a owner of your business and get that media out there. So I just think that's a tremendous lift for you and your business, Ksenia.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's important to be a face of the company. Media definitely reaches out. They want to hear from the founder, the founding story, mission, vision, and it builds credibility with the team and investors.
Yeah. So what does success look like for you? Because I know over the years that you were like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, I've done this. I'm launching. Oh my gosh. And so success is different as you're moving along. But what does that look like for you today? And how are you measuring that success? And are you using your own internal metrics? Or are you letting others define what success looks like for you?
Well, success for me personally, it's feeling of accomplishment. It's the opportunity to become better every quarter, every year, right? To
Right.
grow. We at the company level measure our success like on a quarterly basis. We have like OKRs and the number of
Sure.
families we want to help, and like a lot of different metrics. But I also think like it's important to enjoy the journey, right? Like it's very hard to say, okay, today we are successful. Like it's a long journey, it's a marathon. It's hard to just like make a hard stop
Oh, I
at
know,
one
and you
point.
could be feeling successful at 9 a.m. in the morning and like a complete loser at 1,
Complete loser, yeah.
and then at like six
Yeah.
o'clock in the evening, you're like, "Well, shoot, pulled that one out of the frying pan. I'm back to being a winner."
Right. And especially how much adversity you face as a startup, right? Like, it's a set of problems you're solving every single day. Like if you even like look in the, like at the past 4 years, pandemic hit us, and we had to fight with this like large like industry that didn't want to be disrupted and innovated, and the war happened, and the job market was tough, and it's like every single day, every single year, there's just like a bunch of problems that fall into your lap. So
Congratulations to you and your team for navigating those murky waters, because it wasn't like that 10 years ago. It wasn't like that. We had a disruption in 2008 economically, but when that pandemic hit, and then, as you said, the war, and then the economic climate, and then you were disrupting how things were done. I mean, that's really hard when you're in an industry going, oh, I don't think so. And you're like, yeah, I kind of think so. And coming back. So when you were going through those tough times and those, problem solving moments that were really pulling on you, and congratulations for just taking that week and getting everybody successfully out, for the most part, out of the war zones that they were in, and able to continue to move forward in life with their families. How do you manage those tough days? What kind of mindset hack can you share with other founders that has worked for you to help keep you strong and focused?
I rely on my family first and foremost, right? Like that's where I kind of like come to recharge and get energy. But also like talking to other founders, because sometimes you feel like it's about you and your startup and only you like facing all those like challenges, and like even like right now, if you look around, like the industry is like on fire, right? Like everyone is facing something. I think it's important to just like give another founder a call and just exchange ideas. I go to a lot of founder events, hear from later stage founders or founders of my stage, and it's so refreshing just to understand you're not going through this alone.
You are singing my song on that one completely. I'm a huge fan of the founder peer support, because looking to your family, certainly they're going to love you through everything, but founders are going to help you, as I said earlier, give you some cement for your backbone and give you wind to your sails, and just look at you and go, I understand. And they really do. So that's wonderful. And terrific advice, founders. So take that in. And then, now that you've been an entrepreneur, you had your 8 months, and then you fully launched in 2020, your 18 months, and you fully launched in 2020. So you've been at this for 4 or 5 years now. How has this journey served you, Ksenia, both personally and professionally?
Oh, I would say like starting a company is equivalent to like getting 10 MBAs. No school can teach you this real life experience and how to cope with adversity and how to become a great problem solver, and just like push through and show like perseverance. So I would never do it any other way. I'm so grateful for this experience.
Yay, congratulations. It really is. And I'm always telling folks that this journey, you will always win, right? Because no matter what, you are finding parts about yourself, yes, that you never knew you had. I mean, you knew you were a problem solver, but you didn't know that you could go to this level. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And then raising money from VCs, right? It's like one thing, like you're saying, like how to measure success. Like one thing, you feel like you're successful, you accomplished something. Another thing is to convince other people to give you money, to fund your startup, to be a part of your journey.
That is huge. I forgot to ask you, when you got some of those questions, the biased questions that women received, how did you handle that? Because, I'm sure you saw it, which is everything is like, well, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? I mean, we know for a fact, folks, that men do not get that. They go, well, what if this works?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you find a way to help, navigate that in a way that got people back to the mission?
My kind of way to go around that was always to be present in the room with my male colleagues.
Okay.
So it's not just like me on the fire, but you exactly right. I spoke with other founders in FinTech, and a lot of times the questions that, guys are asked is about potential and how can this be like so big and how you're going to win the competition and, win this market. And for me, it was a lot of times like downside protection and risk mitigation. And what if this goes wrong or doesn't work.
Well, I have to thank you so much. I'm going to get out the double clappers here and really, really applaud you, Ksenia, because you have accomplished something that only 1.9% of women do. And I know it's much lower in the FinTech world, okay, for raising venture capital. So thank you for being a shining light out there in the world that it can be done. And I think you shared, and I know you shared, some ideas to help everybody start thinking, folks, you just don't turn this bias around because you say, hey, this isn't fair. You just don't. It's implicit and it's ingrained and it's indoctrinated, and there's so many things that you're up against. So you got to bring in the folks who are going to help you bridge that. And then as we get more women writing checks, right, and that have authority for implementing the funds, and then we have down the river with the hedge funds and the LPs that are putting money into the VC funds who are saying this needs to go to women. Okay, am I clear? Then your fund managers are going to be there for you. That's my humble opinion. What do you think, Ksenia?
Well, I think it will take, years to change this, in the industry. I have my proposed solution. I think what's actually going to help is if LPs, large financial institutions, pensions, endowments, foundations, providers of big checks to VCs, they demand X percentage, let it be 10%, 15%, to go to female founders and treat female founders as a separate asset class. That's what's going to move the needle.
You gave me goosebumps. With that one. I loved it. Everyone, be sure to go check out this wonderful app. If you've got grandkids or you've got kids yourself, how helpful this is going to be. They've made it so easy to do the investing. And I just love how it all looks. And it's absolutely family investing made easy. A terrific app out there. Thank you so much, Ksenia, for joining me on the Startup Life Live show. Any last thoughts before I pop you into the green room?
Thanks, Andy. I mean, if we have any parents in the audience, definitely download the app. I would appreciate any feedback, would appreciate hearing from you. And just remember, it's easy to get, gifts from friends and family for birthdays and other occasions. So yeah, never miss a chance to say a couple nice words about your own startup.
Absolutely. I love all of that. And you remind me of the days where we would give kids, or parents would give other parents to hold for their kids, the bonds, right? The U.S. Treasury bonds.
Yes.
Hold on for 20 years. But anyway, thank you so much for creating such a great platform. I'm so excited to watch continued success happen for you and the UNest team.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so grateful you carved out time. Oh my gosh, folks, did we learn so much? I have to tell you, I really did get goosebumps with Ksenia's last comment there. I am just so excited for the future, and she's absolutely right. We've got to nail that stuff down. So let me share who we're chatting with on the next episode of the Startup Life Live show on March 10th at 12 p.m. ET. It's Fab Female Founder Friday with Sissy Lou. And after nearly 20 years in clean tech and entrepreneurship and venture investing, Sissy co-founded Metalmark Innovations to tackle air quality and climate change challenges. And Metalmark Innovations is a public benefits corporation, and it's releasing its patent pending product, Tatama, the first self-cleaning commercial air purifier. And this is a company that's using biomimicry. It's based on the Metalmark butterfly wings, the zero purifier. We're going to go deep into some fascinating technology. So what do you do to know who I'm posting and sharing on the next Startup Life Live show? You join that meetup group, okay? Hop on over to Startup Life Live meetup group, and that way you'll receive an alert whenever I have a new show. And until then, please promise me that you'll remember, you're braver than you believe, you are stronger than you seem, and you are wicked smarter than you think. You've got this, everyone. Thank you for building your businesses. I am in awe and wonder of you and cheering wildly for you. Be sure to stop by and say hi wherever you are online. I'd love to see what's going on and learn about your startup and what you're building. Until next time, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Mwahs from Boston, everyone. Cheers.